What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 78, brought to you by the Antisocial Network. Today, we got a super awesome guest, really cool dude. It's Ryan Duffy from Omaha, Arkansas. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Sean?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Can't complain. It's nice weather outside. It's nice and hot. So, like I said, I can't complain. It's beautiful weather.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's outstanding.
So, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself, Ryan?
Yeah. Well, appreciate you having me on. My name is Ryan Duffy. I'm a co-owner of Duffy Homes Realty in Branson, Missouri. Also just founded Four Keys Management out of Veneta, Oklahoma. Own Ozark Mountain Vacations. We're that's centered in Omaha, Arkansas. We run and manage vacation rental Airbnb type properties here on Table Rock Lake. We're dabbling in some land development and some commercial leasing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You're a busy man.
Yeah, yeah, I like to stay busy. I guess it's just part of what keeps my mind off of things, huh?
Yeah, definitely. What got you into this field? Because we're going to talk about what you were used to do prior to this, but what got you in this field?
So my wife and I, when we first got together, we always, would kind of dream on what we wanted to do, and we kind of landed on development. We weren't really sure why. We just wanted to get into real estate in some capacity, and build things and build communities and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it was not a straight trajectory. I was a fireman in Chicago for 9 years. My wife got her degree in interior design initially, and we've always pictured ourselves doing the 30-year program, pensioning out, and then retiring to Florida, like a lot of other people do. But about 6 months into my firefighting career, I sustained a pretty serious back injury and started going down the path of multiple surgeries and painkillers and that sort of thing. And long story short, it reached a point where I just couldn't do the job anymore, and we just uprooted our family and moved to Omaha, Arkansas, and had to reinvent ourselves. So, we'd always had that passion, that dream of doing real estate development, just weren't really sure how to go about it. So, as soon as we moved here, Shay got her real estate license. I got my general contractor's license. I started building homes. She started selling homes. And then after a few years, our paths converged, and I got my license initially as a realtor and then a broker. And now here we are 7 years after we moved from Chicago to Omaha. And this is what we're doing.
Highly successful. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
And what you told me before we hit record is you're in charge, or you just got the contract for a new theme park coming into Oklahoma.
Well, I mean, we're involved in a very small capacity. So one of my partners at the brokerage, his family is spearheading the development. So we were tagged to come in and help them out with the commercial leasing operations for the stuff that's going off site. So we're really excited about that. So we just recently got our Oklahoma broker's license, and we've got some meetings this week, and just kind of diving into it head first to see what our role is actually going to be. But it's a pretty exciting development. It's a Disney quality theme park in the middle of the country, so it should be something special.
That's super awesome. That's really cool, and really cool to hear. Because I haven't been to Oklahoma in a while. I was stationed there when I was in the army for a little bit, and then left there. And
Oh, Fort
yeah,
Sill.
yeah. Oh, I hate that place with a
Yeah, me
passion.
too. Yep, I've been there.
Oh, I hate that with a passion. That
Yeah,
place sucked.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
I
brutal.
did.
Were you,
Yeah.
were you a gun bunny?
No. So I was a 13 Fox. I was the redheaded
Okay,
stepchild of the combat arms.
gotcha. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
I hated that place. I did my basic in AIT there, and then left and went on to do bigger and better things.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's where I did my basic too. So no, it's
Nice.
it's nothing like Lawton, Oklahoma. No, this is going into Veneta, Oklahoma, far northeast, about an hour outside of Tulsa, right in the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. So
Nice.
different geography. It's pretty out there. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Grand Lake is right there, so there's going to be all kinds of stuff on the lake, and then the theme park itself. So
That's
should be
pretty
pretty
cool.
neat. Yeah.
That's exciting. All right, man. So we're gonna get into it. What was it like in your active addiction, or what led you into addiction?
Following doctor's orders. So when I had my first injury, I was 20, I want to say 22. I herniated my L5S1 lumbar, and it's like I said, I was right on the job. So I was right out of the fire academy. I was the new guy, just doing something stupid during a fire, and I felt something pop. And being the new guy, I didn't want to say anything to anybody, so I just kind of walked it off, and initially thought I just pulled a hamstring. I felt a sharp pain in my leg, and end up getting home after shift that day, and I was actually going on vacation after that shift, and by the end of the vacation, I couldn't walk. I was 22 years old, and I was hobbling into urgent care with a cane, and I must have looked like the biggest junkie. I was actually one of the first times I came to visit the Branson area. So I just got off shift. I woke up the next day, my leg is killing me, could barely walk, and we drove 8.5 hours just south of Branson, Missouri. And I walk into an urgent care, and I just go, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm in a ton of pain. Can you please give me something for it? And they look at me like, I'm the biggest asshole in the world. They're like, all right, here's some muscle relaxants. You'll be fine. And so I just kind of toughed it out, and honestly just self-medicated. I mean, I think I spent that week just basically pounding whiskey because I was in so much pain. And get back home, get an MRI, get a call back from the doctor. He's like, man, you must be in a lot of pain. You got a pretty bad herniation. I'm like, yeah, I am. So at the time, I just they prescribed me Norco to get through it, quote unquote, right? And I was taking Norco from that point on for about 5 years daily. And I tried to power through it and avoid surgery at all costs. Which at the time I had what I thought was a pretty good Blue Cross PPO plan through the city, so I got to pick and choose my doctors. So the first doctor I talked to, looked at me, looked at my scans. He's like, you need to have at least a 2-level fusion. At this point, L4 L5 was herniated too. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I went to another doctor, and that doctor's like, then I went to a pain management doctor. Pain management guy's like, oh, you don't need surgery. Pills will do it for you, and injections. Cool. So I went down that route for years, and it just snowballed. So I was 22 when I had my first injury. I did some lifestyle changes. I lost a little weight, started doing yoga. That seemed to mitigate things. And then probably 2 or 3 years after that, had another serious herniation, L4, L5, got worse. And at that point in time, I was starting to do regular injections as well, so the epidural injections. And they just kept raising my dosage on the Norco. And I remember probably being about 4 years into this process. It was right when the state of Illinois started their medical marijuana program. And at the time, I was taking 8 Norco a day, and I was chasing that with a handful of Aleve every day too. And so I went to my pain management guy, concerned about my liver enzymes. I'm like, I'm taking a fistful of pills every day. Like, this can't be good. And so I talked to him, like, what do you think about this whole medical marijuana thing? And he looked me dead in the eye. He goes, as far as I'm concerned, it's no different than freebasing. I'm like, freebasing? And they're like smoking cocaine. He's like, yep, there's no science behind it. There's no proof that it does anything. But he's like, you're right. Taking 8 Norco a day is bad. There's too much acetaminophen in there. It's going to hurt your liver. So then he handed me a script for Oxycontin. And then I spent the next year on Oxycontin. So I mean, it was insidious. It wasn't, I wasn't going out to get high. I was trying to stay on the job and trying to avoid having surgery. And, it just snowballed. And, I quickly reached the point where, even on my good days, most days I wake up, just in a ton of pain, and I'd have to reach for a pill. And then I noticed towards the end, there'd be some days where I wake up and I'm like, I could tell like this is wearing on me. And I would try to not take a pill, and I'd feel like shit the whole day. And I'd have these mood swings, and I'd feel physically ill. And then I remember having my very first surgery. My L5S1 disc ruptured on me, actually, while I was on a waiting list to go fly overseas to have a procedure done, which is a different story. So the disc ruptured, and it was just the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. And it was probably about a week, 10 days, where I tried to suck it up because I was waiting to go fly and have the surgery. And I knew if I did anything else, that would kill that deal. So I spent about a week just taking Oxycontin like they're Tic Tacs and chasing them with whiskey. And I don't know how I didn't die. I mean, it took everything I had just to not be screaming out in pain constantly. And then finally, I looked over at my wife and I said, just bring me to the nearest emergency room. I can't do this anymore. And so they went in, they did what they call a microdiscectomy, laminectomy. They took the, kind of cleaned up the disc and got it off the nerve and everything. And that was the first time I woke up and I felt reasonably good, and I could actually walk without a cane, and I didn't need to go take an oxy. But that started, that started, the path down withdrawal and trying to recover and get off of it. And the irony is, Blue Cross is happy to toss you 100 oxycontin a month, but then if you try to go and get sober, they won't do shit for you. you know I did all kinds of research. I tried to go cold turkey, that didn't work. I tried to ease off of it, that didn't work. And so I ended up finding a clinic that did Suboxone treatments, and that's what ultimately helped me taper off. But it was a struggle, man. I mean, I had to pay cash out of pocket every month for it, because Blue Cross wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
So it was brutal, but it was definitely insidious. At no point until the very end did I even think, man, I'm addicted. I can't function without this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but then once I realized it was a problem, it was like I dug myself in a hole that I couldn't get out of. And I was having all these mood swings, and my marriage was on the rocks. I was just constantly snapping at my wife, and my son at the time was like 6 months old, and I don't even remember like the triggering event, but we got into a fight while we were selling our house, and I think I don't know if I lunged at her or I just raised my voice or something, but I scared her. I scared her to the point where she took my son and she drove to her parents' house and left me for 3 or 4 days. And I just sat there, just kind of wallowing in my own depression and just anger, and just couldn't figure out what was wrong. But I'm sitting there popping pills and just realized, like, this is it. Like, I can't think straight. I can't function. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years of my life just trying to avoid pain, and realize, like, I'm a freaking junkie. I mean, I can't think straight. I can't maintain my relationships. So it was it was scary. It was eye opening.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think one of the biggest issues that is facing America today, and it has been for a while, is prescription medications, because you take them as prescribed, especially if they have habit forming side effects. Man, like, you take them as prescribed, well, naturally your body grows dependent on that, or they up your dose because the pain levels are starting to increase. You're starting to build a tolerance, and that's what it sounded like with you.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the first time I took an oxy, half of one knocked me out for 2 hours, and then within a month, I was at the point where I was taking two or three a day. And I've ended up doing all kinds of research on this stuff after the fact, but opioids are poison. I mean, it's terrible for you. There's no reason why doctors should be prescribing this stuff long term. If you have a traumatic injury and you need something just to get you through for a few days, I could see where that would be an effective use of it. But from everything I've read over the years and talking to other people that have gone through this journey and this hell, I mean, there's just nothing good about it. And you reach a point where taking these things on a daily basis actually lowers your pain threshold. You actually, there's been studies that have come out that show that with placebo, you're actually better off than if you were to take Vicodin or Norco on a regular basis, because it just tricks you. Your mind just craves it more and more, so it makes you think you're in more pain just so you can take another pill.
Yeah. So you start to get, you go and start doing the MAT, the medicine assisted treatment route. Um, how was that transition for you, going from the oxy and the pills that they were prescribing you to this, to
It,
Suboxone?
it was terrible. I mean, it was better than just trying to quit cold turkey, because the physical effects weren't as bad. I still felt pretty ill for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks as I started with Suboxone. But the hardest part for me was just that, the brain fog. The brain fog, the depression. I felt like I had a mild flu for the better part of the next year.
Mhm.
So I just couldn't fire on all cylinders, and and it and again, it's like a self-sustaining cycle with all these pills and everything too. So towards the end, when I'm ready to start getting off the painkillers, at this point I'm also on antidepressants. I'm also on Adderall. Because after a couple of years of being on opioids on a regular basis, I'm like, man, I can't think, I can't focus, and so having the PPO, I go to another specialist and like, oh yeah, you've got adult onset ADHD. Here's some Adderall. So I mean, it just fed into all of it. So even more so, I'm at a point where not only do I need a painkiller to function, but I need an antidepressant. I also need an upper, and then I'm having trouble sleeping at night. So they had me on some kind of sleeping pills. Yeah. So I mean, at one point, in my mid 20s, I think I was taking like 8 or 9 different prescription drugs on a regular basis. But and that kind of played into the struggle too, I think, because as I'm trying to come off the painkillers, I'm also realizing like, well, shit, man, I gotta take an upper just to think, just to get my business settled every day. So I was trying to taper off of that at the same time. So yeah, it was brutal. I really feel like it took me the better part of a year before I could even think clearly.
Mm.
Aside from the physical effects. But yeah, it was a struggle, and I was blessed to have the support structure I've got. My wife stood by me through all this. She could have very easily just thrown in the towel. I had a great job with the fire department. It offered fantastic medical benefits, paid leave, that sort of thing. So I think the story could have ended much differently had I not had those two factors in my life, my family and the job at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I first started my recovery. Even before I had this bias, right, toward MAT. Like my recovery went a little bit differently. I ended up in jail at one point, and I seen people abusing Suboxone. And like, to me, when I got out of jail, I was like, oh, somebody said, "Oh, I've been prescribed Suboxone." I was like, you know what? No, you're continuing your sickness. And I got to this point where I met. I reconnected with one of my friends from the army, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I take Suboxone, and this is what I've done, and this is how my doses have lowered." And I was like, "Holy crap!" Right. So, have you ever encountered that when you talk about like, "Hey, um, I took Suboxone to help get me clean." Have you ever encountered anybody that's been like, "Oh, you're just still using, you're just supplementing"?
Uh, no, but honestly, I tried to be pretty guarded you know, with how I went through it. I mean, I didn't, at the time when it all hit the fan, I had effectively, ruined most of my friendships. I didn't keep in touch with a lot of people that I was close with, and I was pretty isolated, aside from just my wife and my son. For me, it was, the hardest part was just mentally coming to that point where I realized I needed help. It was hard enough for me to go to the clinic for the Suboxone. But one of the things that I fought tooth and nail was trying to look into any kind of like recovery groups. I really didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I didn't want to, I think, to a certain level, admit that I didn't have the strength to get through it on my own. And that was one of the things that my wife and I fought about, for a while. Was, she wanted me to get into NA, and go to groups and talk and Catholic, but I
Oh, looks like we might have lost Ryan. Give me a second. We will get him back in. Uh, but anyways, I'm gonna use this time right now. I don't know what happened around. There he is.
sorry about that.
I know it
I
happens, man.
Yeah,
You're not.
yeah. My apologies. I was supposed to be in the office for this today, but I got tied up.
That's
But
okay.
for me, like having the strength to help. I mean, I didn't have that. I couldn't ask for help. Which I think was one of the things that drug this process out for me. So I was, like I was saying, I was raised Catholic, but I never really practiced. I kind of pushed off organized religion for most of my early adult life. My wife and I never went to church together until we moved to the Branson area, and I feel like that was one of the things that helped me get over that hump was finding faith. And I'm not, I'm not by any means a good Christian. I try to be, but I think that's what really helped push me over the hump was, admitting that, I don't have the strength to get through this on my own, and leaning into faith to help me get over that. So wish I would have done that sooner, because I think it would have saved a lot of trouble and heartbreak. But that's just kind of how my story played out.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I know a lot of people that faith helped them out. Some people were able to quit cold turkey, and that worked for them. For me, I couldn't do that. I was like, let's test the waters. Let's see what works for me and what doesn't. So you start to get clean. How long have you been sober now?
Since 20 September of 2016.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thanks.
Con-
Yeah.
Through the Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that it was weird. I mean, for the longest time, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop, just just a little bit here and there. And for us, for me, it just really took a hard break. So we uprooted our family. And I know most people don't have this option, don't have the margin for it. But we sold our house in Chicago. We had bought at the right time after the crash, and did some sweat equity, and had some money that we could cash out when we sold it. And we had just enough in the bank to put a down payment on a house in Omaha, Arkansas, which I'd never heard of before at this point in time.
Right.
And I had some paid medical leave from the fire department, and so it allowed us to just completely break off and start fresh. And that's when we came to faith. That's when we became pregnant with our second child, with Lana, when we were having fertility issues up until that point too. So that was another point of struggle for us, within our family life. And but I felt like once we moved here, and that's when we moved, was September of 2016. It just made it easier to start that new life, I guess you could say. I feel like if I would have stayed where I was, it would have been easy to fall back into old habits.
Oh, definitely. Now, I ask all my guests that have had some kind of long term sobriety, how was the pandemic for you in recovery?
Um, so we had kind of a unique situation where we're at. I'm out in the country at the time. We were homeschooling. Most of our work is remote, anyways. So if it wasn't for constant toilet paper shortages and people freaking out on Facebook, we would have never known anything was going on. To be honest with you, I don't know where in the country you're located, but rural Southwest Missouri, North Arkansas, played the pandemic off a lot differently than some other urban areas.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was in Alaska at the time. I was just medically retired from the Army. And so I was up there. And then I live now in Maryland.
Okay.
So a drastic change of geography. But yeah, the pandemic was a little weird, but also I got sober in the pandemic. So for me, that was like when they said stay home, I was like, oh, cool. I get to stay at home. I don't have to worry about anything. Fine.
Awesome.
Fine. I'll do that. I'll do that. But yeah, it's I like to ask that question because uh everybody's different, right? So for you, it didn't affect you at all because you're out in the country, right?
Mhm.
And other people might have been, in the inner city where they felt disconnected for the first time in a long time. I'm okay with not being around people, so it didn't really bother me. But uh, yeah, so obviously, aside from your business, what are you doing now to maintain what you got?
Uh, my wife and I really just keep ourselves busier than we want to be. So, I mean, I don't even have time to sit and think, or give myself a chance to want to do anything else. Um, and I don't know if that's the healthiest answer long term. I definitely feel it. In terms of like family time and spending time with our kids. I mean, we're workaholics.
Yeah,
So, but we do work remotely a lot, and we have an opportunity to, take our kids out on the boat, and, we might be on our phones or on our laptop, but at least we're with the kids while they're swimming and playing out in the sun. So, um, really, really for me, it's just, I don't know. I've just fallen in this mentality where I don't give myself any free time. Again, I don't know if that's a healthy solution. It may not be in the long run, but that just seems to be what works for me right now.
but it's a solution nonetheless.
Yeah.
What is the biggest lesson that you would say that you learned in your recovery about yourself?
You need to take responsibility for yourself.
Mm.
I think on a certain level, I knew, throughout the years that what I was doing and the dosages I was starting to take and everything else was irresponsible and was going to cause me trouble in the long run. But I just kept telling myself, I mean, if it's good enough for the doctors are telling me to do this, it's probably the best thing for me. I think looking back, I I should have known better, and it's easy to look back and hindsight 2020 and everything, but everything that I did, it was my own fault, and I think that was a mindset change that needed to happen too before I could start to fully recover. Was realize that my mood swings and my everything I was doing was all entirely my fault. I'm under control, of that. There's certain aspects of my life that I'm not in control of, but what I choose to put in my body and how I choose to treat the people around me are entirely under my control. And I think once I realized that, it made it easier for me, I think, to do what I had to do to force myself into recovery.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think personal accountability is huge, especially when it comes to your own accountability. Right. I tell the story on the show quite frequently, but I had somebody pretty much say to me, and my what kicked off my recovery was I created all these problems in my life. And once I took accountability and accepted that, then life would start to get easier for me. And at first, I was like, "Nah, screw him. Who does he think he is talking to me like that?" Right. But then, like, I thought about it and I was like, he's absolutely right. Because I've never held myself accountable until that point. And so you do bring up a very good point of personal accountability. Before we get going, what is one or two pieces of advice that you would give to somebody that's struggling, that was in the position that you were in, that wants to get clean, wants to get sober?
Um, that's a good question. I I would say, and again, this is my own journey. I know it's different for everybody else, but you know, have faith and lean on your family, because those were two things that I think I really pushed off actively. As I was kind of starting to spiral out of control. I felt like, I don't know if I ever believed that there was not a God, but if there was, like, it didn't matter, or I could, you know I could create my own destiny. I don't even know. Honestly, I look back at those years and it was just a haze. But the biggest things for me were, just admitting that I was losing control of it and that I needed help. Um, so I mean, I don't know what the blanket answer is for anyone looking to get help. But for me, it was, like you just touched on too. It take responsibility. I mean, if things are going south in your life, it's probably your fault. And I mean, there's always external forces you could point towards and say, well, this guy's not being fair to me. This person doesn't like me. It's not my fault because I'm in pain. You can say it's not my fault all day long, but that's not going to change anything. So I think that's the biggest thing is just take responsibility for your life, and if you want to make a change, do it. And it doesn't have to happen overnight, but you have to have that mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Ryan, before we go, uh, where can we find you at, brother?
So I'm on Facebook, Ryan Duffy, with Duffy Homes Branson on Facebook, DuffyHomesLLC.com. And then you can also find us on YouTube and Instagram. But those are, Facebook's our biggest outlet. So,
Absolutely. And all the links for Ryan will be down below in the description. You can check him out. Go check him out. He's an awesome guy. I'm excited that he came here and shared his story with us and shared his success, because it's amazing to see people go from where they were to where they are now, and to see the transformation. So Ryan, I want to take a moment and say thank you for hanging out with me and sharing your story.
Sean, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And everybody, thank you for hanging out with us and listening to Ryan. And until next time, hope you guys have a good day. Much love.